Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, another dose of reality of where this economy, the banking system, the financial system is heading. If you haven't already got a clue yet, allow me to give you one just in case, And if you do have a clue, allow me to give you an extra one. We're going to focus on banks this time. Once again, I should say, the Italian insolvent banks. And we got a new boy in the neighborhood, if you will. And that might be a little something to do, or have something to do with Spain. So, Wolf Street and Wolf Street. Two articles from Wolf Street. And I was saving this one for a rainy day, if you will. I had so many videos to do. I'm just like, this isn't that important. But maybe it kind of is. Now that another one is here right in my face as of today. Spain's most Italian bank still solvent, claims finance minister. And I love the comment that Don Quejones from Wolf Street uses. And then he has another article. This is the one that was several days ago that I just was like, am I going to do a whole video on just this one thing? Webbot did say to look out for these Italian banks to, have massive cracks, so to speak. There's going to be massive solvency issues. In his first article, the older one, here's why Italy's banking crisis has gone off the radar. Just how many banks are solvent? Turns out a lot, but elections are, how many banks are insolvent? Turns out a lot, but elections are coming up. And I think that's where we're going to start. We're going to start with this older article and then see what the new one has for, as he likes to call Spain's Italian bank, largest Italian, or what was the word used? Spain's most Italian bank. So, for a country that is on the brink of a gargantuan public bailout of its toxic, loan-riddled banking sector, this is specific to Italy, by the way, or failing that, a full-blown financial crisis that could bring down the European financial system, things are eerily quiet in Italy these days. It's almost as if the more serious the crisis gets, the less we hear about it. Otherwise, investors and voters might get spooked, and elections are coming up. But an article published in the financial section of Italy Daily Il Sole lays out just how serious the problem or the situation has become. According to new research by Italian investment bank Mediobanca, 114 of those of the close to 500 banks in Italy have what they call Texas ratios of over 100%. The Texas ratio, or TR, is calculated by dividing the total value of a bank's non-performing loans by its tangible book value plus reserves, or as American money manager Steve Eisman put it, all of the bad stuff divided by the money you have to pay for all the bad stuff. If the TR is over 100%, the bank doesn't have enough money. To pay for all the bad stuff. Hence, banks tend to fail when the ratio surpasses 100%. Okay, this is very simple. In Italy, there are 114 of them, and of them, in other words, 114 are over 100%, walking dead men. And of the 114, 24 of those have ratios that are over 200%. Ooh. Not looking good. Granted, many of the banks in question are small local and regional savings banks with tens or hundreds of millions of euros in assets. These are not systemically important institutions and can be resolved without causing disturbances to the broader system, but the list also includes many of Italy's biggest banks, which certainly are systemically important to Italy, and some of which have the Texas ratios of over 200%. top of the list, predictably, get ready for this name, tell me if you heard this one, Monte dei Paschi, Siena, with 169 billion euros in assets in a Texas ratio of 269%. Get on that plank right now, you walking dead man zombie bank. You are walking the plank. You are done. Get ready for the largest Italian bailout, bail-in. Who knows what the hell they're going to do. It's going to have to be massive. And I have a question. How's it going to be paid for since it's a member of the EU? EU nation. Brexit has now happened. UK, it's official. We're leaving. We left. I mean, it's knocking at the door. There's a couple little more things they're going to tie up, but it's done. It's finished. Italy's going to say, how do we solve this banking crisis? We need help from the European Central Bank. Help us. They're going to take a peek in there, which they already have, I'm sure. Oh my God, you guys are so insolvent. We can't touch this with a 10-foot pole. So just wait this out as far as you possibly can, as long as you can, and then go ahead and leave the EU. We're not going to beg you to stay like Britain, the UK. We needed them to stay. They were a powerhouse. You guys, on the other hand, you guys are insolvent. You are what we would call a deadbeat. In credit terms, you are a deadbeat. But we don't want you to collapse right now because it's going to make the rest of us look bad. But when the time comes, we're not going to tell you you owe us billions and billions of dollars to leave like we did the UK. Just get the hell out of here as soon as possible. Don't let the door hurt you in the rear end. Next up is Veneto Banca with 33 billion euros in assets and a Texas ratio of 239%. This is the bank that, together with Banco Popular di Vicenza, assets 39 billion, Texas ratio 210%, was supposed to have been saved last year by an intervention from government-sponsored, privately funded bank bailout fund Atlante, but which now urgently requires more public funds. Their combined assets place them 7th on the list of Italy's largest banks. Some experts, including the U.S. bank hired last year to save MPS, J.P. Morgan Chase, has warned that Popular di Vicenza and Veneto Banca will not be eligible for a bailout since they are not regarded as systemically important enough. This prompted investors to remove funds from the banks, further exacerbating their financial woes. According to sources in Rome, the two banks' failures would send shockwaves through the wider Italian financial industry. There are other major Italian banks with Texas ratios well in excess of 100%, and they include Banco Popular, UBI Banca, Banca Nacional del Lavoro, Banca Popular della Emilia Romagna, Banca Carige, and Unipol Banca. Boy, these Italian banks sure sound Spanish to me. One of those, that last one, has 380% Texas ratio, by the way. Oh. In some, almost all of Italy's largest banking groups, with the exception of UniCredit, Intesa Sao Paulo, and Mediobanca itself, have Texas ratios well in excess of 100%. But as Eisman recently pointed out, the two largest banks, UniCredit and Intesa San Paulo, have Texas ratios over 90%. So not quite 100 yet. And let me stress to you, yet. Because as I said, when all this starts happening and starts getting the public view, but this bank doesn't have it, they're going to fail, they're failing. What just happened to the other ones? Pull their money out. People, institutions, we're pulling our money out. And that's all that it will take is people pulling their money out, nothing else, to take this one that's 90% Texas ratio easily well over 100%. Because the good money that could pay for the bad money, bad assets, is going to go bye-bye because people are going to take it out. They don't trust it. To stay on the right side of the solvency threshold, UniCredit has already had to raise 13 billion euros of new capital this year, and last week it took advantage of the European Central Bank's latest splurge of charitable lending, formerly known as TLTRO2, to borrow 24 billion of free money. But as long as the financial health of the banks all around it continues to deteriorate, staying upright is going to be a tough order. So there we have it. The ECB has, in fact, threw a couple of bonus eggs in that direction. But the amount it would actually need to throw to make all of these Italian banks solvent is astronomical. And not only that, even if the European Central Bank takes that step, because it doesn't want to commit not really political suicide, it's more or less European Union suicide, and have all the countries really start leaving. So let me try to say it a different way. If the European Central Bank comes up with the enormous funds to save the Italian banking system, keep it short and simple, we'll be facing the same exact problem in no time at all again. Which is why the other one that was already had plenty, we thought we bailed it out last year. What happened? Up, back down again. Because in a recession or depression, you can funnel all the money you want to it. People are losing jobs, companies are slowing down, retail sales slowing down, the automobile new car apocalypse, which is turning into now to the used car because of the leasing, used car apocalypse, because there's tons of used cars being put on the market thanks to leasing, 2-3 year lease. It's done. Now let's sell the car off an auction. And the auction is providing horrible results. And everybody's taking a beating, etc. But this is everywhere you look. This is everywhere you look. So anyways, it says this is where things get complicated. In order to qualify for public assistance, banks must actually be solvent. Presumably, that would automatically disqualify any bank with a Texas ratio of over 150%, which includes MPS, Banco Popular, several of those. The bailout must also comply with current EU regulations, including the Bank Recovery and Resolution Directive of January 1st, 2016, which specifically mandates that before public funds are injected into a bank, shareholders and creditors must be bailed in for a minimum amount of 8% of total liabilities, as famously happened in the rescue of Cyprus's banking system in 2013. Which will make what happen? People get even more scary, or more scared of having anything to do with Italian banks. Oh my God, is my money going to get bailed in? Oh no, Yeah, that'll bring people into your bank, yeah. You risk losing it if you have a certain amount of it, you'll be bailed in. Oh yeah, let me park my money over there. The Italian government knows that this approach could end up wiping out retail investors, otherwise known as voters, who were missold, in many cases fraudulently, subordinated bonds by cash-hungry banks in the wake of the last crisis, in turn wiping out the government's votes. To avoid such an outcome, the government has proposed compensating those retail bondholders with public funds, just as the Spanish government did with the holders of Preferente bonds, which, of course, is in direct contravention of EU laws, by the way. So far, the European Commission has stayed silent on the issue, presumably in the hope that the resolution of Italy's financial sector can be held off until at least after the French elections in late April, if not the German elections in September. Then, if those elections go Brussels' way, a continent-wide taxpayer-funded bailout of banks, NPLs, can be unleashed, as already requested by ECB Vice President Vitor Constâncio and European Banking Authority President Andrea Enria. With no guarantee that Italy's NPL-infested banks, non-performing loan, can hold out that long, it's a dangerous waiting and hoping game. In the meantime, shh, be quiet, he says. Now the newer news. That was old news. That was like 4 days ago. This is now new. Spain's most Italian bank, still solvent. So that's a good thing. It's still solvent, claims finance minister. I love the way he puts this. This is fantastic. The future continues to look bleak for Spain's most Italian bank, Banco Popular, which, ironically, once bore the slogan, "Our past, our present, guarantee our future." Things have gotten so bad that when the country's Minister of Finance, Luis de Guindos, was asked by a reporter today about the bank's state of health, he responded, "The bank is solvent," which is kind of like saying a doctor saying, "Well, the patient is alive." Not exactly reassuring. Popular just had its worst day of 2017 after seeing its penny stock tumble over 10%, from 90 cents down to 82 cents. Euros, excuse me. If you will. 0.82 euros, 82 cents. This is a bank that was once ranked among the world's most profitable by ratings company, IBCA, in which not so long ago boasted a share price of over 15 euros. It's down to 82 cents. That was before its management decided to bet the farm on risky real estate investments at the height of an insane property bubble, and then took too long to clean up afterward. And by the way, is there a property bubble right now that's pretty much popping and starting to collapse? I wonder how many other banks across the planet have done the same thing. We're going to find out in the near future. This is why, again, you can't take a bank and allow it to also simultaneously be an investment bank, so that it can bet the farm, lose. We're such a systemically important bank, too big to fail. You got to bail us out now. We're still going to get our bonuses. The CEO is going to make multiple millions. He's going to make millions upon millions in bonuses. Upper management, they're going to be millionaires. That stays. And we need the bailout. And we need it now. Give me my money. Even now, 9 years after the bubble's crash, the first one, roughly a quarter of Popular's total loan portfolio is still concentrated in the real estate and construction sectors. Again, we have a bubble now, another real estate bubble that's in the process of popping. It's at the peak still. There's still insanity, but it is at the absolute peak. It is busting. It is bursting. It is going to happen. If you look at certain sectors within real estate, you can already see it bursting. So even now, 9 years later, after the bubble crash, roughly a quarter of Popular's total loan portfolio is still concentrated in the real estate and construction sectors. You mean you're still in the sectors that caused you to blow up in the first place? Yes. And we have a bubble right now that's popping? Yes. In November last year, it had over 30 billion euros worth of bad loans and non-performing assets on its books, which it continues to struggle to offload without incurring fatal losses. It was also the country's worst performing bank in the ECB's last stress test. But hold on, the IBCA rating agency. This bank was ranked among the top of the world's, not Spain's, the world's most profitable bank by the ratings company IBCA. And had a share price of 15 euros. Now it's 82 cents. Remember that? Wow. Isn't that amazing? In 2016, Banco Popular registered annual losses of almost 3.5 billion euros after provisioning part of its giant stock of non-performing loans. But according to the results of a new internal audit published today, that was optimistic. The bank's actual losses were 600 million euros larger, hence today's fresh rout. Popular didn't provision enough last year for its delinquent loans, risks, and associated guarantees, says the auditor PwC. In response, the bank announced that while it does not see the need to reformulate last year's accounts, it will make sure that this year's results reflect the difference. More damning still, the auditor has unearthed evidence that as part of that 2.5 billion rights issue, its third effort since the crisis to raise capital, Popular's management offered low interest loans to clients in order for them to buy the bank's share offering. This latest accusation reinforces allegations made at the time by the Spanish investment group Blackbird that the bank was offering customers dirt cheap loans or refinancing deals at an interest rate of just 2.5% as long as they used some of the funds to purchase the bank's newly issued shares from the bank. And from the auditor's report, certain loans to customers that could have been used to purchase shares in the capital increase carried out in May 2016, the amount of which, if verified, should be deducted in accordance with current regulations of the bank's regulatory capital without any effect on net income or equity. Popular's new president, Emilio Saracho, formerly of J.P. Morgan Chase, estimates that the purchase of at least 205 million shares from a sample of 426 million was financed in this way. This is not just unethical, it is illegal. Banks cannot lend customers money in order for them to buy the bank's own shares when it issues them to raise capital. For the moment, the bank's only punishment is that it will have to deduct the money it lent those customers from its capital base. As for the bank's long-suffering investors, they are once again beginning to fret about what might be lurking around the corner. Within hours of releasing the results of the internal audit, Popular's management announced that its CEO, Pedro Lorena, formerly of another walking dead man, Deutsche Bank, had resigned just after 6 months on the post for personal reasons. And what does JSNIP4 always tell you? When you see somebody join a bank, they're in the upper echelon of management, etc., and they're gone in a matter of months. I've discussed this numerous times. I don't care what the hell the reason they give you they left for. They saw something that told them, oh my God, I can't possibly fix this or be a part of this. This is horrible. I am leaving. I don't want any part of this when these cards start falling. This house of cards falls, I'm going to be long gone. I'm not going to be a part of this. That's what that says. You don't have to do any research. You don't have to see why. What did they say? No. That's all you need to know, because these people get paid big, big, big salaries when they're in these banks. They're not little tellers or a little person who works in a cubicle. These are the people at the top echelon, maybe first, second tier, if you will, upper management. They're getting paid big bucks and bonuses, and they have golden parachutes when they leave. Several months on the job, I'm out. And wasn't it Monte Di Paschi that also had a new management come in and then they all left? I think it was them too. Didn't I talk about that? Wow. In the meantime, hedge funds in Connecticut and the city of London, smelling blood, are increasing their shorts against the stock. Combined, they now hold 10.7% of the bank's total capital, eclipsing the total holdings of the bank's biggest shareholder, Cindy Catura di Accionistas, which represents some 5,000 investors. Another big investor, Union Europea de Inversiones, was itself on the verge of bankruptcy at the beginning of this year as a result of the constantly plunging value of its holdings. Last week, it was forced to cut all ties with Banco Popular following the launch of an investigation into its irregular financing by Spanish market regulators. It turns out that one of its biggest and most generous creditors was Banco Popular. In order to stay alive this long, Spain's sixth biggest bank has repeatedly broken one of the cardinal rules of fiduciary practice: do not finance your own investors. It has also unleashed a string of capital expansions, drastically diluting the holdings of its shareholders. Yet the boat continues to leak. Barring state intervention, the only remaining hope it had of salvation was to spin off 6 billion euros worth of dodgy assets into a separate investment vehicle, optimistically dubbed Sunrise, that was to be floated on the stock exchange. That was its plan Z, and according to its new president, it has a new president. So the other lady, she left, new president stepped in too. Wow. According to him or her, it's dead. But apparently a miracle may still happen. Greek property magnate George Legothithis, has expressed an interest in buying up some of the toxic assets off Popular's balance sheets at a big discount, or else it could merge with a bigger bank. It would certainly have the ECB's blessing, which would like nothing more than to see bigger banks in Europe. There are plenty of suitors, including Spain's two alpha leaders, Santander and BBVA, but none of them would want to touch the billions of euros of toxic assets festering on Popular's books. So, what is this George Legathitis, or whatever, Legathitis, going to do? I know what those toxic assets are. They're housing. Right? Most likely housing, mortgages, whatever. I'll take them. We'll foreclose on all of them. And then we'll resell them or we'll rent them out. But because they're toxic assets on your books, I'm only giving you pennies on the dollar for them. See, I'm not the Federal Reserve who'll give you 100 cents on the dollar. No. I'm a real investor, and I'm going to give you pennies on the dollar for what they're worth. Pennies on the dollar. And then I'm going to turn around and flip them, rent them, sell them, something. And for that, here's what I offer you. And since you're a dead man walking, what do you say? And the bank's more than likely going to say, we don't really have a choice, take them. So that's probably how that's going to go. And I got news for you. This is not going to be the end of these kind of stories from Jason at 4. As the weeks go by, the months go by, you are going to hear me talking more and more, just like I have been about pensions recently, the retail apocalypse, car loans, housing, that it's like rapid fire. I got a sneaky suspicion, banking crisis in Europe, but maybe even more specifically, Italy to start with. Now we got some problems in Spain. Same problems that never really went away, and that's the key. And then we're going to find, there's some other banks. Like I said, this one was the top one. It was one of the top banks, rated highest rated. You're going to find a bunch of those other ones just like that. They were cooking, listen to my words, cooking the books. And now that we've seen what's in those books, oh my God, we have a worldwide epidemic, banking crisis 2.0. That's how this is going to happen. But I thought they were solving. I thought, yeah, we did too. This guy stepped down. He got quit. He fired, left. This guy got suicided. He jumped off a building. It's way worse than we all thought. Regulators, we got to bundle these banks together, sell them off to the likes of JP Morgan and the big boys or the big banks in other parts of the world and let them take over because there's so many. This is a crisis situation. We got to have to deal with this now. We thought we could do another mini bailout on some of the banks. Now we're finding out we have to do another huge bailout, and it's going to be larger than the last one. Just a warning. But if we don't do this, it's the end of the world. The sky's falling down. You have to let's do it again. And the people around the world are going to flip out. You said we had to do this one time in 08 and 09, and that was it. You did it again in the other bank last year, the one I read you a minute ago, and now they need another bailout, which is going to start with a bail-in. And that ain't going to be enough. That's why old Jason 4 doesn't keep much money in his bank. I like to just say, you know what? Rather than even keep it, hidden away, I'll just keep throwing a little bit of silver every month. A little more silver, a little more silver, a little more silver. Because if I see money in the bank and I see those digits, it's easier to say, let me go buy this stupid thing or let me go buy something over there. But when it's not there, we got enough to make the bills for the next 2 months, which is what we usually keep. Okay. I don't have the urge to go spend, nor does my wife. But we do have a little different situation here in America. We do have a central bank that is more than willing to print to bail out the bank. So my money being bailed in at some bank in America, I'm not too concerned about that. Anyways, take care.